changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration. It's Thoughtful Thursday, and that's the day when I share a story that gave me new perspective, that made me stop and think. I'm lucky to be exposed to all these stories. I know I've told you this before, but we get thousands of submissions for every one of our books. And then we have to narrow it down to only 101 that go into each book. So you can imagine how much these stories are the cream of the crop. And today's story is one of the 101 that made it into a very intense book called Chicken Soup for the Soul, Find Your Inner Strength. It's one of the most powerful books I've ever made. I remember when I was editing it, I had to keep taking breaks because the stories were so strong and powerful and intense that they were just shaking me up. I got this story after I met a woman named Ginger Katz and her husband Larry a few years ago. And I wanted their story in this book about finding your inner strength because it's about something near and dear to my heart, standing up for what you believe is right, no matter how hard it is. Ginger's story is called A Mother's Promise to Her Son. And it's about a terrible time in Ginger's life. It's about when she found her 20-year-old son dead of a drug overdose the very morning that he had said he was going to go to a doctor voluntarily and deal with his drug problem. I guess he was doing that one last hurrah thing that addicts sometimes do right before they seek treatment. So this happened a while ago when people were more ashamed to talk about their kids and drug use. And the doctor told Ginger to lie about Ian's death, to say that he died of an aneurysm or a heart attack. After all, they were an upstanding middle-class family, and drug overdoses didn't happen in upstanding middle-class families. Ian was a great kid. I actually went and researched him on the internet, and he was a bit of a superstar. He had excelled in sports throughout his school years. He was the captain of his sports teams. He had even competed as a black belt in karate when he was only 11 years old at Madison Square Garden in New York City. He was popular. He was handsome. He was an honor student. This was a kid who had everything to live for, but he died from a drug overdose. Ginger couldn't sleep the night before the funeral because she didn't want to bury her son with a lie. In fact, that night, she had a vision of herself speaking out. She woke up her husband and she said that she wanted to tell everyone that this could happen in their families too, and she wanted to work to stop this from happening. And that morning, she stood up at the funeral and she told everyone the truth about Ian's death. Ginger says in her story, "They say the truth will set you free, and I believe it. Once I made the decision to be honest about Ian's addiction, I became the strong one at the funeral." Ginger educated herself about addiction after that, and then she approached the principal of Ian's high school in Norwalk, Connecticut, and she arranged to tell Ian's story to the students there. Now Ginger shares Ian's story across the country to students, parents, educators, law enforcement, at different state and national conferences. She wrote a children's book about Ian's death from drugs from the point of view of their family dog. She lives near me in Connecticut, so I see her in the news all the time. And I know we're hearing more about drug addiction today among the middle class, but when Ginger did this, it was really brave because the subject was way more taboo. And I think that her outspokenness then has contributed to the more open dialogue that we are seeing now about drug use in the middle class. She has helped end the shame so that families in all sectors of society can seek help, or better yet, recognize the signs and stop drug use before it happens. Ginger's organization is called the Courage to Speak Foundation because it was that courage to speak at the funeral that started this all. And here's what Ginger says in her story. "I made a promise to Ian the day he died to do everything in my power to prevent this tragedy from happening to another family. I never thought this would happen in our family, but it did. Addiction crosses all age ranges, economic and ethnic backgrounds, and races. And I will never stop speaking out until I see changes in our world." The great American writer James Baldwin has a great quote on this subject. He said, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." So that was inspirational, right? Tomorrow is Friend Friday, and we're going to be inspired again by my friend Julie Isaac, who has made it her mission to read at least one Chicken Soup for the Soul story every day for 101 days. She's going to tell us what she has learned. I'm Amy Newmark. Thank you for listening to the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast today. I hope these stories are helping you the way they've helped me. And I hope you'll share the benefits with someone you love so they'll start listening too. And if you'd like to read more thought-provoking, life-changing stories from the book I mentioned today, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Find Your Inner Strength, please go to our website, chickensoup.com.